All right, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Emily Springer. I'm an academic trainer in the Center for Teaching and Learning, and I'm so excited to have Dr. Carrie Hall join us from the JFK School of Psychology and Social Sciences. Dr. Hall is coming back to us because basically the very first webinar she did about dissertation suggestions was such a great hit, and we really wanted to kind of dive into a specific part of the dissertation journey. So today's presentation of tips and tricks for a successful chapter 1 is the reason why we are here today. Couple of very brief housekeeping items. We are recording the webinar and we will post it on our YouTube channel and in our CTL webinars resource page. Absolutely encourage you to have conversation in the chat. I do know that I have a couple of Center for Teaching and Learning representatives here for us today, hanging out and helping me in the chat with any questions that you may have. I know Jenna Johnson is on the call and Dr. Galveo is also on the call as well. So we want you to have those conversations in the chat, but if you have a specific question, can you please put that in the Q&A and then I can address that in chronological order as time permits. If you would like to see the subtitles of this webinar, that is an option for you in the Zoom. You can hover over the CC option and hit select show subtitles. If it's a distraction to you, you can also hide those subtitles as well. So I think without further ado, I am going to pass this right on over to you, Dr. Hall.
Thank you, Emily. I so appreciate this, and I'm so glad to be here with you all today. So first of all, welcome. Welcome to Tips and Tricks for Successful Chapter 1. I'm Dr. Carrie Hall, as Emily has mentioned, an assistant professor in the JFK School of Psychology and Social Sciences here at National University. It's my pleasure to speak with you today about one pivotal part of my dissertation experience, which was completing chapter 1 of the dissertation. So I have a couple disclaimers for you today. So my first disclaimer is that I am a graduate of North Central University, and so the information I share with you is based on my personal experience, and therefore this may or may not be applicable to all of the attendees here today. My second disclaimer is that my dissertation was a qualitative dissertation in marriage and family therapy. I had a medical family therapy specialization. So the information shared today, it can still be universal and it can still cross various disciplines. Another disclaimer that I have is that the tips and tricks that are presented today are meant to be motivational and encouraging. This is not a stuffy time. I just really want you to relax. I want you to enjoy this time period and just take this as an opportunity to just try to just breathe. So, and I'm going to be doing the same thing with you as I'm presenting the information to you. The dissertation process, it can be very stressful and overwhelming. And so I don't want you to have to go through that at this moment in time. I want you to just take the opportunity, relax, and hopefully through this process, you'll be able to find a joy in your dissertation journey. So let's get to the focus of what I'll be discussing today. The focus of this webinar is to help doctoral students find creative ways to overcome the challenges of incorporating the main components of chapter 1 of the dissertation. So as such, we'll discuss parts of the introduction or chapter 1, and this will include finding the gap in literature, the problem and purpose statement, and a conceptual and theoretical framework. I want to reiterate that we can please hold the questions to the end or type them in the Q&A. And some of the questions may be answered as we go along. And then also I'll save some time at the end of the presentation for the Q&A. I just don't want to take a magic carpet ride and not get to all of the important things I like to share with you. So before we move forward in the presentation, because of the title, I think that it's very important to you that I distinguish what the tips and tricks are by, just some definitions, because I don't want, I want to hopefully set the expectation for you for what I'm giving, and not have you think that I have some type of fancy Evil Knievel or Daredevil type of tricks, because that's not really what we're doing today. So when I'm speaking about tips today, this is my advice to you. Again, this is from my personal experience, and I had the privilege of keeping notes in my process. I had a notebook that I constantly journaled my process as I was going along, the things I was doing, the steps I was taking, how I was coming to certain parts of my process. And so I was able to pull those things back out to be able to help you today. So when I speak of tricks, those are the different skills and processes and notes and things that I took that hopefully will be helpful to you to avoid some of the pitfalls that are out there, overcome some of the barriers and challenges to your dissertation. And I can't say it enough, these tips and tricks, you're not going to find them written in any book or scholarly journal. These are my own experience, and I have yet to write the book about that. So just letting you know. And the pieces that are not my experience are friends that I had that attended other universities. And as I was going through my process, they had gone through their process either prior to me or were currently going through as I was going through. And so it's some of their experience with different conversations that we had. Okay, so let's take a look at chapter 1 as a whole. So what is it that you are trying to accomplish in chapter 1? We all have the obvious answer. You are trying to introduce your topic. So this is very important that you know your topic. I know this sounds simple and basic, and you're really going to find that throughout this entire presentation. I am really keeping it simple and basic. There's no need to delve out and go into the deep. You're in chapter 1, you're starting out. So let's just keep this simple and basic. The reality is that you can waste time going down rabbit holes that are taking you away from your subject matter. And I don't want you to do that. You need to save your energy, because chapter 2 is where you're going to need it. And when you get to chapter 2, you can go down as many rabbit holes as you want, but chapter 1 is not the place to do it. So the trick is to pick a topic that you're passionate about. Now, with that being said, even though you are passionate about your topic, my suggestion is that you hold it loosely and be willing to make changes in accordance with your committee feedback and any suggestions that may come from your committee. So the overall purpose of chapter 1 is, like we just said, to introduce your topic. So the first step to getting off to a good start is to make sure that you are working as a team with your committee members. I can't stress that enough. If you are not in agreement with your committee members, you will have a hard time getting chapter 1 approved. And your committee members, we're talking about your chair and your SME. Your academic reader is going to come in at a much later part of the process. You have to know why your committee members should care about your topic. That's important. A common mistake is that you know why you care about your topic. Like I said, usually you're picking a topic or something that you're really passionate about. It matters to you. It's important to you. But you have not yet found a way to convince your committee that they should care about your topic. Why should your chair care? Why should your SME care? If you cannot convince your committee, it's going to be very hard to convince anyone else, and it will be very hard to defend it when it comes time for defense. I want you to think about defending from beginning to end. So at this point, you're starting out in chapter 1, think about there's going to come a day and a time that I am going to have to defend this work, this writing, this what I'm doing. So it's important to be willing to accept the feedback that your committee members are giving you when you're starting out. And again, this is usually at this point just your chair and your SME. Okay, I'm going to tell you a little story here. So this is just a little story time so you understand like what allows this lady to sit in a chair and talk to me about this. Like who is she really? Well, when I started my chapter 1 journey, I had already had my topic picked. I have been writing about this from the very first opportunity in the program. I'm talking foundational doctoral course. I started writing on my topic. I was told by every professor along the way when I had to write about my topic that I had a worthy research topic, that this would be great for my dissertation. There was only one professor in my whole entire time of that education that told me I have concerns about this topic. And when that professor told me that, and everyone else told me, all of the other professors told me, oh, this is great, this is great. I kind of thought, well, maybe they're just picky. Maybe they just don't like my topic. I don't know. And so I kept going in that direction, despite having been told that there's some concerns about the topic. I didn't ask questions about why do you think there are concerns or what is going on. So again, I would suggest that you ask questions if there's professors that you're writing in courses that you think may be, good for your topic, and they have concerns about it. Ask those questions. And I'm saying that for the participants that are on here that are not yet to chapter 1, but they're getting themselves prepared for the dissertation process. As fate would have it, my SME was the one professor that warned me that there was a problem with my topic, okay? So my chair agreed that even though I tried to put a different spin on the topic, that it still was not ready for approval. And it was my job to convince my chair and my SME, my committee members, that I could pull this topic off. So I went back to the drawing board, and after some time, I realized that I had not been able to move forward. I probably spent another 2 weeks on that. And I see that from when I went back to my journal notes, and I could see meeting with Sharon Smee, and I had the date, meeting with Sharon Smee, and I had the date. And I noticed that I had gone back to the drawing board. I was wasting time trying to stick with a topic that was not being approved. So what I did was I just quickly snatched another topic out of the air that I was interested in. It was something close to me. I pulled it out of the air, and my SME and my chair, they liked the topic, but the problem at this point was that I pulled it out of the air. I had no scholarly literature to support this topic or why I was going to do this topic and what I was going to do with it. So again, my committee, they told me, go back, take a look at this again. I started researching again until I found what I needed for my committee to give me the thumbs up to move ahead. And we all knew we were in for a challenge because my topic that I did do was understudied, had very little supporting documentation from my field, but I worked well with my SME and my chair. That is the key. I was open to their feedback, and my chapter 1 was a success. My chapter 1 went fairly smoothly for me. And at the same time, I was speaking to, like I said, other friends at other universities, and they were having problems. They were having the opposite experience. They were telling me how they were arguing with their committee members, how they were refusing to make changes. I'm not going to make another change. I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do that. They were resistant to the feedback. And the end result was they were stressed out. They were wanting to quit the program. Their process was taking them a lot longer than the way I was moving through. And I look back at that now and I realized that one of the keys to my success was being open to feedback, to working through, talking through, listening to suggestions from my committee members. And so let's now talk about the different tips and tricks as we start to delve. Now we're going to delve further into chapter 1. So one of the tips is that you want to obtain the scholarly literature to support your topic. No matter how narrow the scope, it's not enough to have an idea without scholarly literature to support what you're doing. You are in an academic environment. I point this out because some students are coming from a practice perspective. So this is why I say that, because you have ideas about how to improve practice and you have ideas that may be great for practice. They possibly will be even successful. They will work in practice, but that doesn't mean that it will work for this academic environment or that it will work for your dissertation. That's really hard for some students to get a grasp or get a hold of. So just kind of marinate on that. And, we can, again, we'll have time at Q&A if some questions pop up on, what that distinction is. I also want you to keep in mind that the best dissertation is the completed dissertation. So you don't have time to be resistant to feedback. You don't have time to start arguing with committee members in chapter 1. You have to line up at that starting point, get yourself ready. And the trick is to see your chair as a guide. In the beginning, your chair is not trying to stop you from being successful. That is not what they sign up to do. It is a lot of work to be a chair in a SME. So no professor is signing up to try to stop you from becoming a doctor. They're already a doctor and they've been through what you're going through. They've already gone through it. So now they are your best guide because they're there to help you in this process. This is important to chapter 1 because you're starting out. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because there's a lot of students that, again, come in with your ideas, you're the expert, you're ready to take off, you have all of this information, and you're not willing to allow your committee members to guide you. Chapter 1 is not the time for that. However, the role is going to change. So there will come the time where you will be taking the lead. You will then lead your committee, but it doesn't happen in chapter 1. In chapter 1, allow them to guide you, help you, get you started. If you are that one that's just out above the rest and you're flying high and soaring well and your committee is just there already behind you just to support you and put that wind beneath your wings, then allow that as well. But just remember, your committee is very important to you and all the way through, but especially chapter 1 when you're starting out. So let me say that I'm sorry for anybody that has had to make a change with the chair or SME, or if you are currently going through this situation. I do know that this is something that happens to some students and it becomes very difficult because chairs and SMEs, they're asked and expected to make a commitment to students due to the nature of this process, because we know it's going to be a lengthy process. You're not signing up for something that's going to end in a month or two. But unfortunately, life does happen. It happens to us all. And sometimes even the best environment, best circumstances, this change is just inevitable. So here's the tip. Even though there may be differences, realize that every chair you will ever have on a dissertation has one thing in common. They all have a doctoral degree. So they have already been through the process. Granted, each chair is going to approach the subject and the process differently, but this is an opportunity for inspiration. So if you have gone through this, if you've had to have a change, when I was speaking of some of my friends that were complaining and they didn't want to make changes, again, at other universities, one of the things was one of my friends, she had several different chairs and she, they had different perspectives and she just didn't want to keep making the changes. But here's the optimism in that. There's a trick in that. Every piece of advice from every chair that they're giving you, this is a way that you can incorporate that into your chapter 1. Find a way to incorporate those various suggestions, differences, viewpoints put them in there, because when you do this, then you're going to help yourself, because you're going to be able to demonstrate that you can reach a wider audience. If you can reach people with various viewpoints and differences, that's a successful dissertation. That's a successful chapter 1. That's what you want to do. So if you find that you're out in these deep waters, the best way to survive is to just keep swimming. So let's discuss what it means to find the gap in the literature. This, again, was one of my stumbling blocks, and it took me a minute to really kind of navigate those waters, but I was able to do so. Finding the gap becomes difficult and confusing to many doctoral students, because many students come into the process, again, like I did, with their mind made up about their topic. So you've done the research, you've written on a particular subject, you've been told by professors that your topic is research worthy, but then when you get to the actual process, the committee doesn't agree with that. And then this is the reason, like I said, I shared my story with you in advance, so you kind of know where I'm coming from. I don't think I even fully understood when I look back. I don't think I understood what they were saying when they were saying find the gap. So when I first started out, it just I couldn't grasp it. I couldn't get it. And then all of a sudden, one day the light bulb just came on. And when I did grasp it, my chair recommended to me that I keep notes on what was helping me to grasp these ideas that they were sharing with me. And he said that it might be a help to somebody else one day. Of course, at that time, I couldn't see how it would help anybody else, but I did think it was a good idea to start keeping notes on what I was learning, how I was coming to my information, what steps I needed to take to get to the next process. And thankfully, look at me now. Hopefully I can help you today, or someone in particular. The trick is to read articles that are related to your topic and find those keywords and the key sections of the scholarly articles that are going to lead you to your gap more quickly. Oftentimes, the limitations will give ideas of where the gap is, because there's usually something that is missing, something that could not be achieved in a prior study. And so now you can take those missing elements, or something that wasn't able to be done in a prior study, and you can put it into your work, and there is your gap. So here's a trick you can use. And this was something that I did. I have the little notes in my notebook where I created a flow chart that started with my general topic, and then I answered for myself these 3 questions. Number 1, what research had been done on my topic? Number 2, how could the problem be addressed by the study? And number 3, why was my topic important? And so then here's the tips. After I did that, then you want to research the most important word in your topic along with similar keywords. So the most important word in my topic was sarcoidosis, because my topic was the lived experience of sarcoidosis patients and their families. So I was looking at sarcoidosis was my general topic. That was what would have went on the top. And then you want to actually think about what you intend to do in your study. So you'll develop a tracking system to document what other scholars have done to address the problem. And if you cannot find your exact problem, then find a similar topic. So for example, like I said, my general topic was sarcoidosis, which is a medical condition. It's a chronic lung condition. There's no known cause and no known cure for it. So that was the problem I intended to address. Was I wanted to learn more about the lived experience of sarcoidosis patients and their families, because my husband was diagnosed with sarcoidosis. And so there was no information that I had to look at for sarcoidosis as far as in marriage and family therapy. I could find things for sarcoidosis for illnesses, but there also wasn't anything that really related to family dynamics, family functioning, psychosocial aspects. None of that was addressed. I was finding more or less information about the illness itself from the medical perspective. So what I had to do was I had to look at lung diseases, other chronic illnesses, and then see what had been done on the psychosocial side from that perspective. So then once you kind of do that, go back to your gap in literature. That's where you start looking at, hey, the gap is going to lead you to your problem. And when I went back and I started reading more and more of the medical journals and problems about sarcoidosis, lo and behold, there were some physicians that wrote about less was known about the psychosocial aspects of sarcoidosis. That was the gap. That was the problem. We didn't have any knowledge about that had been written. So knowing, when we get to the purpose statement, knowing how broad or narrow your topic is, that's going to let you know how to scale your articles and also which direction you want to focus in. For example, if cancer is your topic, then you'll need to narrow down your scope because cancer is a broad topic just by itself. So you may need to pick a specific type of cancer. Is it breast cancer? Is it pancreatic cancer? You know, what type of cancer are you really wanting to look at? Because cancer by itself is just too large a topic for a dissertation. And then with sarcoidosis, I had the opposite problem because sarcoidosis was such a limited topic, even though there are different types of sarcoidosis, there's cardiac, there's neurological, there's different types, but it was still a really understudied area. So I had to then go broader in my research. So I needed to bring in other types of, start researching what all these different types of sarcoidosis and start looking at other illnesses and looking at stroke and looking at cancer and looking at more already researched types of illnesses in order to make, find that purpose. So the same is true for your study location. Study location becomes important because you have to decide who your audience is and who you're bringing in, like who are you speaking to? Sarcoidosis is a worldwide problem, but I live in the United States. So my interest area had to be, because I was focusing on patients, I decided to focus on patients that lived in the United States. And so that was making the difference because that was narrowing the scopes of the articles I was looking at. It wasn't, I wasn't looking at, I did look at what they did outside of the United States, and we'll kind of talk about that if I come back for chapter 2 to give you more information. Hopefully we'll be able to do that. But at this time, we'll just kind of put a pin in that and save that for later. For this particular purpose, for chapter 1, I needed to keep it local. So depending on the size of your study and what you're doing in particular, you might need to determine, am I going to focus on a single state? Maybe, the state of Florida has an issue, or the state of Michigan or California, and my study, I need to focus on what are the issues in this state because my topic is so large. Or maybe you're trying to do, for some of you, when I was saying you have practice ideas and you're trying to get that topic pushed through and you want to do something maybe in your own local community. So then you want to kind of look at the community ideas and, start researching articles about what has been done, not just your local community, because usually, again, that gap is going to tell you that there isn't really any program in your community, hence the reason you're doing what you're doing. So in that case, what have other communities done to address the problem? Those are the types of things that you're doing. So the trick to completing your purpose statement is focus intently, then you're going to pause, and then you're going to, during that pause, you're going to focus on your methodology a little bit. And then when you've kind of started focusing on your methodology, you're going to come back and and you're going to come back, and this is going to then lead you to your purpose statement. A strong purpose statement. This is why I say that, because it's like, well, why am I taking a pause? I'm trying to write my purpose statement, but why am I taking a pause to go look at methodology? The reason why is because your purpose, a strong purpose statement, will include your research methodology and your design. And this is the reason you take the pause. So I was working sequentially. So for me to work in that manner, now maybe you don't work sequentially like I do, and that's fine. If you want to work in a different manner and work on one piece and another piece and then try to pull it all together. But when I was all over the place, it was not working for me. So the best way for me to move forward was to start working sequentially on this purpose statement, or the purpose of this study is to, and then in the middle there, you're going to talk about what your methodology is, and then you're going to finish the rest of your purpose statement, and it will flow better. So your purpose statement will flow into your theoretical framework. So this is, again, like I said, why I realized that the fact that I was working sequentially had helped. If you're over in your theoretical framework already, and now you trying to jump back to figure out your purpose, it may not flow as well. And you may go back and have to redo some of the work that you had already put into it. So to start out, your purpose statement, you'll do a lit review, then you kind of start developing your theoretical lens. So here, with that being said, the next step, once you have developed that purpose statement for your theoretical framework, then you're going to conduct a literature review. Again, notice how many times you're going into that literature. That literature, you have to kind of live, sleep, eat, breathe with it. It becomes your friend. You are with it so often if you really want to have a successful dissertation. And at this point, we're just speaking of a successful chapter 1. So the next step, you conduct that literature review, but your focus has changed, because this time your focus is on theoretical frameworks. So when you're going back to look at your lit review, this is what you're looking at. So here's the trick when you get into that. You want to read up on various theories. You want to make notes of those citations or create a list or annotated bibliography. Keep all of this information, because it's going to become useful in chapter 2 when you're engaging in your literature review, and you will use it again in chapter 3 when you start to describe your methodology. So keep all of this information in some type of organizational system. You can use RefWorks, different things. You can organize by topic, you can organize by author, you can organize by dates of publication. Any choice that works best for you. You have to decide what's your best way to keep all of your literature organized, and then organize according to how that works for you. And then, just keep moving over. Now, once you go back to review all of this literature that you've been gathering on different theories and kind of looking at, hey, this is where I maybe want to go with my theoretical framework, then choose the one that's the best fit for you. If you like it and you think it's the best fit for you, you'll be able to write about it. You'll be able to defend it. And no matter what happens in your study is not going to matter if everything came out just the way you said you thought it would, or if it totally went the opposite direction. If you have taken the time to set yourself up to find a theory that you enjoy and that fits for you and fits for your study, you'll be able to make it a success. All right, here we are with another pitfall. So the conceptual framework is not one that you make up on your own with no scholarly support. Now, I say this because this was not my problem. This was a problem of, again, some of my friends who, well, I have this idea and I have this and it's not written out there and this is my brainchild and this is what I've decided to do. Well, even though you may have developed the framework, you still have to find the literature that will support that the concept you're presenting is doable and that it will work with the research you intend to engage in. So the tip is to find the literature that supports existing frameworks are not suitable. So that's what you're kind of doing there. You have to go in and find an existing theoretical framework that's already out there, and then you have to demonstrate that it's not suitable for your study, it's not a fit for your study. And in other words, you basically have to keep building upon the work of other scholars. And you're going to be doing that through your entire process until you get to the point of your study where now you're conducting your study. And that's the point where, like I told you earlier, where you're going to kind of start taking more of the lead in your process, and your chair and your SME are going to start following your lead. That pretty much happens at the point where you start engaging in your study, because now it is you. This is you're the work, you're the expert, you're the one that's leading everyone through your process and what you're doing. In the beginning, look for guidance, look for help, look for people to support you. And I can only think that you're already doing that if you're attending this webinar today. So I hope that, something I share with you will be helpful one way or another. Another tip is you can also do both. So don't discount that I have to do one or the other, because in the beginning, that was a question that I had was, well, do I have to do a conceptual or theoretical, or how does that work? You can actually do both. And that's pretty much what I did. I took two well-known theories and I used them as my theoretical framework. And what happened was, when I started looking at these two well-known theoretical frameworks, when I looked, I realized, wow, these two mesh very well together. And I really want to use them both. I don't want to use one or the other. So I integrated the two theories as a part of my study, and that was the conceptual part. So, and it gave me a wider lens to view my research from, because now I'm viewing my research from an integrated theoretical framework I was using. So now we are at the point for Q&A, and hopefully I have provided some understanding for why certain aspects of Chapter 1 are important. I hope that I've offered some encouragement, motivation, or ideas. Hopefully this is kind of starting you to, just kind of think a little bit. If anybody has been struggling, I just want to reassure you, you're on the right path. Different chapters are easier for certain people. It's just, we're all different. And so some chapters are going to just flow very well and smooth for you. And then other chapters are going to be a little bit of a hurdle. So don't compare your journey to anybody else's journey. It's you. This is your thing. This is what you want to do. And you can do it. I'm living witness. You can do it. So I wish you the best. And I thank you all for tuning in. And at this point, let's see what questions I can answer.
Absolutely. First of all, Dr. Hall, thank you so much for laying the groundwork for some really good suggestions for some tips and tricks for the first chapter of your dissertation. I have been getting a couple of questions about whether or not you can access this webinar after the fact. Of course, you can access it in our CTL resources center underneath our webinars, and then we will post it on our YouTube channel as well. And then I will send a friendly follow-up to anyone who registered with a link about 24 hours after our recording. So now that I have addressed that piece, let us dive into some of the questions. And again, Dr. Hall, if you're not able to give an answer, of course we can defer the question to a later time or for a follow-up as well too. So should the dissertation topic come from future research section of a scholarly journal?
Absolutely. You are in the right place. You hit the nail on the head. You found the trick, because when you're looking at future research, that is definitely where you're going to find a potential gap. That is saying this is something that needs to be studied, and you're likely going to find that language, that future studies should, dot, dot, dot. And so you're on the right track.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Let's see here. Another piece. Oh, this is a great question. So what do you think you should do if your feedback is vague and you're not able to understand what your committee is actually wanting you to change or revise? What kind of suggestions do you have to navigate that piece?
Oh, do I have a story for you there? So it didn't happen in my chapter 1, but it happened in my chapter 4. You really have to communicate with your chair. This is where communication comes in, and that's why I say your relationship with your committee is very important. My chair had a art background and was trying to use art terminology to help me understand where I was falling short and how he could help me to think about things. And I did not know the words he was using. I did not know anything about that type of art. I was lost. And so we just decided, okay, let's just talk about this another time. He even sent me an article. I read the article. I still didn't get it. I was just lost. I was like, I do not get this. And so we came back, we talked about it again. And then I said, okay, let me stop and let me think and let me walk away. Those types of tips you're going to find, like I said in my last webinar that I did, was the reason for that. There are moments in time when your chair is speaking a foreign language to you, and so you might need to just walk away, breathe, say, I've spent too much time on this. I'm going to come back at it and let me try to look at it at a different angle. And that's what I did. And then I was also honest with my chair to say, I really don't understand this art terminology. He said, oh, I apologize. I was an art major and it was just natural to me. So we figured that out together. And that's what I mean. Your chair and your SME, your committee, they are your team, and you're working with them in a journey that you're walking alongside each other together. Make sure that you're having a pleasant experience. Don't, be defensive about it. Again, they're not trying to stop you from being a doctor. They're trying to make sure that you are the best doctor that you can be when you become doctor. So nobody wants you to be mediocre. So if you need clarification, go back and say, I'm trying. I just don't understand this piece. Is there another way to look at it? Is there another resource? Is there something else I should be looking at? Are there other articles you recommend or suggest that I should be going to?
Oh, I like that last piece suggestion as well too. Are there other articles or suggestions to look at my research in a different lens? And of course, I know our lovely librarians could help assist, try to find those gems as well too.
Yes.
So, question, this is a personal question. Did you take supplemental courses? How many did you take to finish your dissertation, if you did take supplemental?
I did take supplemental courses in chapter 1, and that was the reason I talk about this one. I took the A and the B. And like I said, the reason that happened was that I finished in B and not A was because I was fooling around with that topic that my committee kept trying to say to me, you need to abandon this and look at something else. And I spent those weeks hanging around in the wrong area. And then, like I said, trying to pick a topic out of the air without that scholarly support, that took me more time. And I probably spent about a month on that. It just dragging my feet in the wrong direction. And so once I really did the work that was necessary and getting the scholarly support for the topic of interest, everything flowed from there. So and it was different. Like chapter 3 is another place where a lot of people get stuck. I did not. I had a supplemental in chapter 3 because of the IRB committee, not coming back to me, in time. But even when they did, they had like one or two minor things that I needed to change. No problem. I changed it very quickly and it was done. I flowed right through with my methodology. So it just depends.
And Dr. Hall, I absolutely, I just like to point out, obviously, as you've mentioned before, everyone's journey is going to be different. So you've got some applause in the chat for your candor and your courage and just explaining your journey as well too. So we appreciate that. Another question here. I'm wondering about how can study limitations potentially help you find the gap in literature? Do you have any thoughts on that piece?
Well, so when you go in and I'm trying to think of, like, you're looking at an article and it's saying, for example, okay, so I'll give you my own study. My study was limited to my participants for sarcoidosis only turned out to be females with one male participant. That was a limitation in my study. So if I was to write that up and then you go and look at that literature and you see, hey, she didn't have enough male participants. I could I could focus on this same study, but now my population is going to be males. What are the lived experience of males with sarcoidosis? I want to find those men, because, you're going to have me start. I was almost about to go down a magic carpet ride about my dissertation.
Okay.
We won't go into that. I will get too excited about my topic, but that's an example of how.
Nice. Thank you so much. And then let's see. A couple of other questions here. Let me see here. If you found a gap in a particular literature, must your variables be the same as the literature of your underpinning literature?
No.
Oh.
Again, this is you. This is your work. That is where it comes in. Like I said, when I say, let your chair guide you, let your committee guide you, it's not, and that's why I say guide, not control or take over. It's not that piece. You are going to be the expert on you. I am the expert on my study, sarcoidosis, the lived experience of patients and their families. That they guided me, but I did all of the work and had the concepts and the reading and all of the pieces. And of course, they came in and edited and pointed and gave me suggestions, ideas, and those types of things. But the work itself is mine.
Thank you so much. And then there's another question here. How many scholarly resources do you suggest that we have before we begin chapter 1?
Okay, that is going to vary.
It's
one, it's going to vary by topic, it's going to vary by discipline, it's going to vary by research itself, what's actually out there on your topic. So don't try to focus on, oh, I need a certain amount. No, look for the quality, not the quantity.
Thank you so much. Let me see, Dr. Hall. What about exploring the idea of 2 theoretical frameworks for your dissertation? And again, this is just a personal opinion from you, if you want to expand on that.
Again, that's what I did. So I had ambiguous loss. That was one theoretical framework. And then I had family systems illness, which was another theoretical framework. And then what I did was I integrated the two because there were similarities and there were different things in that went with sarcoidosis being an ambiguous chronic illness. So family systems illness was addressing the families and the chronicity of an illness. Ambiguous loss was addressing the ambiguity of having a chronic condition with no known cause or cure. So by integrating those, they worked really well together for my study.
Thank you, Dr. Hall. Next question I have for you. How do you know or connect with your committee early on so that you can bounce your ideas off of them before getting too far into the work? What's your suggestions for that?
I was up and running at the first meeting. My
Okay.
first meeting with my committee, I was ready to discuss my topic. I was ready to listen to their feedback and their suggestions. And I will not lie to you, it was that first meeting when my heart sank when they said, not sure about this topic, Carrie. But my chair was optimistic, and he said, hey, go back into the literature, you know, dive in, find a little bit more, come back. Why don't we schedule another meeting and come back and see what you have? And it was really funny preparing for this webinar, looking back at those notes I had written, trying to prove my point that still didn't work. But you really do. You have to be, and I'm calling you doctoral students, but reality is you're a candidate. And I had to start thinking in that way too. You transfer from being a student to a candidate. And just that in itself, you're in a whole different place now. And eventually you're going to go from student to candidate to doctor. So, engaging with your committee at every meeting, you should be prepared. You should be prepared not just to speak, but you should be prepared to listen. And any student that has a part of North Central University, and I'm saying that because, North Central University merged with National, and this is where I got my degree from. And so we're all family now. If you are a part of the NCU community, you have been told that from day one of your education, that feedback is important and learning to embrace it.
Yes, thank you so much, Dr. Hall. Does your literature review need to include information about your theoretical framework research?
Yes, that is gonna be a part of your chapter 2. And in chapter 1, you're just gonna mention it briefly. You're just kind of gonna introduce it, and that's what you're doing in chapter 1. Chapter 1, you're going to introduce various elements of what you intend to do. In chapter 2, with your literature review, and like I said, we can save that for another time if you all are interested in me coming back and telling you more about those lit reviews. But that's a point where you're going to talk more about all of the aspects. You're going to go in deeper as to what the literature says.
Thank you so much, Dr. Hall. I think what we'll do is I think we can probably get through about two more questions, and then we're going to wrap up. So, and I think this is a valid question, right? Conducting research is hard. So it's taken me 2 weeks. This is the question in the Q&A. It's taken me 2 weeks to get through 17 articles. Is that anywhere near normal?
Again, it could be for you. Everybody is different. Let me tell you, and this is why I say, don't compare your journey to someone else's. When I was going through, I was in the comments, and I was in the comments with the person that completed their whole entire dissertation in 7 months. And I'm going, how the heck, and I was there when they started. I was starting around the same time. They were a little bit ahead of me, but I kept comparing myself, going back, reading about this person, seeing what they're doing, and then feeling bad about myself because I wasn't where they were. And again, an honest conversation with my chair. How are other people moving so quickly and I'm not? And my chair was saying to me, you don't know what's going on in their life. You're working full time. You're a mother of 2 small children. You have a husband. You go to, other activities and different organizations and committees and different things I was involved in, a very active person in the community. and I found out at the end that that person said they had no family, that their friends had abandoned them, that they weren't working, and that was all they had to do was their dissertation. Well, I probably could have did it in 7 months too if that was the case, but that wasn't. So don't worry about how long it's taking you. Again, it's not the quantity. Give the quality. Give your attention to the quality of your work. Make sure that it represents you and you want to do it well, and give that same respect to your chair and your SME, your committee members, because guess what? They have to sign it too. And you think about that for yourself. What you don't want to put your name on something you don't agree with. So neither do they. So just do your best and don't worry about how long it's taking.
And
And just
I really
yeah.
do appreciate that, Dr. Hall, because again, everyone is their own learning journey through this process, and I really respect the fact that you tune back to that idea. I think this is the last question. There are other questions that I'm not going to be able to get to in the Q&A for the allotted time that we have, but I thought this question is poignant to this topic. It's not necessarily specific to chapter 1, but do you have any general advice on how to stay motivated through this process? And we have about 2 more minutes before we wrap up, so I thought I would put this in here.
Yes. One, go back and look at my other webinar, the dissertation journey, a healthy mindset for every season. And that I go through all the different chapters, and I give you some different little, exercises and different things that you can do for yourself to keep yourself motivated and engaged. So go back and take a look at that. That's in the CTL. And then another thing that I will say to you is, whatever keeps you calm, whatever centers you, whatever, mindfulness you have to do, just keep going in and keep telling yourself that I can do this, I will do this, and I am going to be doctor. Tell yourself that. Put your affirmation there. I had affirmations that I listed on my computer, and I have, which is actually, I'm looking up to the left. I'm still in the same office where I did my dissertation, and I never taken it down, a wall of encouragement. So I have like a list of all these things that I put up that encourage me. Do I have a minute to read through it real quick?
Yes, you do.
I
What's a
will.
couple?
Okay. It's a wall of encouragement. I'm going to train my brain in reading. I can do this and I will. Mistakes may help me improve. I'm on the right track. This may take some time and effort. I'll use some of the strategies I've learned. I'm going to find out where he or she did and try that. What am I missing? I can always improve and I'll keep trying. At the end of it, is this really my best work? Question mark.
I love that so much. Thank you so much. I agree. Affirmations are so important, and it's such a journey. So it's important to keep ourselves in check and reminding ourselves those bits of affirmation. Yeah, the chat's kind of blowing up with yes and claps. So, well, to you, Dr. Hall, we would like to thank you on behalf of the CTL. Thank you so much for coming to present today. I would like to thank all the participants and the questions in the chat and the Q&A, but don't forget, if there are further questions that you have that we didn't get a chance to get to, go to the CTL resource page, check out our navigator section, utilize our librarians in the library and those academic coaches and the academic success coaches that are available to you in your resources. So don't hesitate to reach out, like Dr. Hall has mentioned in this webinar. Come prepared to discuss your ideas and just remember that everybody's journey is going to be different. So thank you so much, Dr. Hall.
Thank you.
All right. Until the
Thank you,
next time.
everyone.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And until the next time, I hope you all have a great rest of your day. Take care.
Bye-bye.